Today we're going to profile the greatest AAU basketball dad of all time. My guy had the loudmouth parent lane cornered long before LeVar Ball ever pulled up. He is, quite simply, a legend. So, strap in for a full breakdown of his tactics, ferocious love of his sons, and a deep dive into what his philosophy can teach every parent in America about how to chase down their family's hoop dream. I'm Mike Nicoll, the writer and director of At All Costs, and today we're going to talk about the star of my first feature film, At All Costs. You can watch the full film right here on this channel. Now, in today's post-NIL landscape, where every major youth sport is being compulsively financialized from the bottom up, the stakes have never been higher. It seems like every week we see a new viral video of some parent going apeshit at their child's basketball, football, or baseball game. And this is in no small part because the money and investment in youth sports today has exploded to such astronomical levels. So, unsurprisingly, there's a ton of scrutiny over this new generation of helicopter parents. The sports dads, the tiger moms, the parents who obsess over every square inch of their child's sporting career. And here's the truth about 99% of them. Most of them don't have a single solitary clue what the f*** they're doing. And it's sad. Which is why I thought now would be a good time to look back on and talk about Ramon, and why he's such a compelling and instructive archetype for today's parents to be taking lessons from. Now, before we get into Ramon and all the wisdom he has to share with every parent out there, let's get something straight. The financialization of youth sports means one simple thing. The large corporations, shoe companies, and mega brands that are financing this monetization of today's youth sports, they do not have the best interest of your children at heart. The avalanche of money that is steamrolling into this world means that there are profits to be made. So what does that mean for you? Well, if the player empowerment era has taught us anything, it's that players and families have more control over their trajectory than ever before. And that's true at every age. So where do I stand? Players and families having more control over the process is, on balance, a very good thing. And long overdue. It's certainly preferable to larger institutions like the NCAA or Nike and Adidas dictating the terms of engagement. And as a footnote to that, I'm also very much in favor of parents taking an active role in their kids' lives. Caring less or easing off the gas pedal is not the answer here. But here's the deal. Power in the hands of an idiot is a dangerous thing. Just because owning a handgun is legal doesn't mean you should have one. And if you don't know how to use and operate it, you're much more likely to end up shooting yourself in the foot. Or worse. And there's the rub. Power without knowledge, clarity, and expertise is pointless. You'll never hit a target that you're not aiming at. And that's what sets Ramon apart as a role model for today's parents. He understood the system, he knew exactly what he wanted, and he didn't tolerate distractions. He was laser focused on his vision, and he had a clear blueprint on how to execute it, which is what I believe every parent needs if they want their child to be successful. It's also why I'm here, to share what I've learned across directing my 2 feature films in this space with you. So, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if there's anybody in your life who you think would benefit from conversations like this, tell them to check us out. So, with that in mind, let's start downloading the vision from the man himself.
I always threaten him with the beast. But the beast has been out there since 5 this morning. He's been shooting and stretching and running and practicing his D so that when your ass comes out to try out and if he's out there, you ain't making the team. Your ass at 5'10", 150 pounds, when they look, you don't pass the look test. So since you don't pass the look test, when you get out there,
Don't stop, won't stop, boy. Bang that, bang that.
BTA, baby, bust their ass. Bust their ass. Do not wait.
Good turn quick, get out. You gotta keep moving. Good. Hey, good, now you gotta shoot.
The moment you let up, you gonna get your throat cut. I wanted to know from day one whether my kid could hang or not. Only place we could find that was AAU, because that's where the real dudes were playing, and that's where all the attention was focused to.
As a director, character introductions are so important. Anytime I'm introducing a new character for the first time, the goal is to build a scene that tells you everything you need to know about who they are right away. And I think that's why this scene works so well, because off the rip, we get Ramon's goal: to find out if his son can swim with the sharks. Ramon fully understood the world he was entering. He sought it out, with gusto. So many of today's parents are jumping into the deep end of the ocean with no awareness of what they're signing up for. And that is a giant mistake. The problem isn't being deeply invested in your child's success. It's having a trivial or non-existent grasp of the system you're opting into, an ignorance of its pitfalls, and a lack of detail in your blueprint, in your game plan. For Ramon, there were no distractions, only the next right action that would advance their primary goal. Most of today's families only have ego and desire in their toolkit, but no awareness of the system's incentives, where the leverage points are. Ramon understood all the angles and was therefore able to create small edges for Parker in lots of little different places that add up over time. Which brings us to our next clip.
I'm a recruiter's and AAU coach's absolute worst nightmare. I know my role. I'm a loudmouth parent. The perfect storm for a coach or a recruiter is to have a single mom with this phenomenal ball player and the mom not know anything about the sport. That's what they would prefer. Not with my kid. Not with my kid. I played this game. I refereed for like 15 years just so I could find out who were the best coaches in Southern California, where were the best games being played, who were the real dudes, who were the pretenders, so that when my son was ready, I could find people who could help him. When he turned 13, just before high school, it was clear to me that we had to move over to Nike. They had a track record of bringing together all of the best players on all of the best teams. Cal Supreme is Nike's flagship team in LA, and that's how we decided to become Nike for life. Miles is a big reason Parker's where he is right now. There's no doubt. I think there were some things that I did not know when Miles went through this. I didn't understand the full impact of the shoe company's involvement. I didn't understand that there's some key camps and key events that you have to be at in order to be ranked and in order to be recognized. It's just like any other business. There's certain conventions you gotta be at. There's certain guys whose butt you gotta kiss in order to make it. And I didn't understand that when Miles was doing it. If I had, he would have been where Parker is now.
Now, the thing I want to drop into the mix here that's important for parents and players to understand: Ramon was not approaching the Nike EYBL circuit as a place for development. We cover this in more detail in the film, but for the sake of today, please understand that Ramon had sought out premier skill coaching in Parker's early childhood years. He laid a rock-solid foundation of fundamentals, point guard instincts, skills, way before they ever hit the primetime AAU stage. I bring that up because it's important not to confuse AAU basketball with a place for development. They are two totally different things. AAU basketball can be a great talent showcase, but it's not where your talent is developed, and it's certainly not where the love of the game is cultivated. So don't ever confuse those two things.
What's the issue?
This tendon on top of my foot. It's bothering me a little bit.
You seen a doctor yet?
I haven't. I haven't really had time. I haven't been back in LA long enough to see a doctor.
The way we figure out who the best players are in this country is by just wearing them out. What distinguishes them is, can they do it against the highest level guys night in and night out? Can they do it traveling all over the country? Can they do it when they're hurt? Can they do it 4 or 5 nights in a row? The answer to that is, for most of those guys, no. So that's why that pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So like it or not, we don't have any power in this situation. We're on this train now. We're going at 150 miles an hour. We gotta make it work.
The thing that jumps out at me here, aside from Ramon's spot-on criticism of the AAU's grind, is his awareness of the risks for his child. So many parents today are oblivious to the risks that they are signing up for. And, in Park's case, being 5'10", 150 pounds, smaller than everybody else out there, I think that a level-headed, rigorous self-honesty around that is really rare in today's parents. Obviously, the risk profiles are going to be different from kid to kid, family to family. But for me, I see Ramon's awareness of the risk vectors for his kid as really useful, because most people are blind to them.
But I went to the doctor, and he told me I had to sit out. So then that was a family decision from there. So.
It's painful. It's hard to make yourself do. It's feeling a little bit better, but
Yeah, he was complaining a lot.
And you're gonna see a lot more parents having to make that choice, especially, as your kid gets ranked higher and higher and higher and there's more attention on them. You gotta be playing at your best when those coaches are watching, and that's during the summer, period.
okay. Walk around again. Try attention and toes. See how it feels so far.
Oh, yeah.
No, let's be straight about it. Nike's selling shoes, Ramon is selling Parker. And the best way to have that happen, from my standpoint, is have Parker go back this summer and redo all of those camps. The big incentive is, hey, if we want Nike support, right, we got to do Nike's thing, right? Right, so we got, if they tell us to go to those camps, we're going to show up and gratefully show up and accept those invitations and then go out there and bust people's ass, right? Right.
The raw honesty and savvy read on this world. I mean, what can you say? Ramon's one of one. Nike selling shoes, Ramon selling Parker. Ramon and Park were very clear. Top tier Division I scholarship is our only goal. They're talking about sacrificing his high school season, which at the time was a fairly controversial idea. But, if that is the bottom line, then maximizing for that outcome is the criteria that informs every decision that gets made. And so the singularity of that vision was always something that impressed me with Ramon. And, there's a reason we call this film At All Costs.
I would say he lost his naivete over the last 2 years. I think before he got injured, everything came easy. He never thought that anything could happen that could even impact his ability to do what he wants to do on the court. And I also think that he never thought that those people who were always in his ear telling him how great he was, he never thought that they would perhaps turn on him too and say, oh, you're not as good as you used to be, or, hey, there's another kid over here that we like better than you, that kind of thing. And I think in some ways that kind of cut him. I mean, he has that kind of, because he's like me, you cut me like that, all right, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna bust your ass, you gonna regret that. I'm gonna make you swallow those words with a cup full of my piss. You just wait. Must have forgot. Look, that's the real deal right there. That was my line all week.
I love this scene so much because I think it's redemption that any parent can relate to. The world finally getting to see everything that your child is capable of. As a director, it's just like Ramon as a character, he's just so honest, he's so vital, he's so f***ing alive. I think one of the things about most modern parents today, they're sleepwalking through their own life, and their child's career is an opportunity to turn a light on that isn't on in their normal everyday to day life. That was not the case with Ramon, and he had no delusions about the system or his kid's ability. The ferocity that he loved his sons with is something that I actually think every parent should be aspiring to. He was always Parker's #1 advocate. His fearless search and desire for control over a process that few, if any, have any actual control over. And I think that's what makes him relatable to anyone, anywhere. If you have a deep understanding of how this system works, what the incentives reward, you can find edges. Most parents entering this system would say they feel helpless at times. And I think that's ultimately what makes Ramon so relatable. I think so much of the film is about his scrapping and clawing for control over this process that very few people, if any, ever actually truly do. But I'll be goddamned if he wasn't gonna try. I'm gonna close this out today, guys, on a personal level. During the 3 years I spent directing At All Costs, Ramon was a real challenge for me. We spent a lot of time together, and it was impossible not to like him. Now, you might say, what's the problem with that? Well, documentary filmmaking shares a lot with journalism and has a lot of overlap with journalistic ethics insofar as maintaining my objectivity plays a key role in my ability to tell a clear-headed, balanced story. So, not getting too close to the subjects in my films is important. So, in making the film, I did my level best to keep a professional distance, so I could maintain a certain fidelity to the story I was trying to tell. When you're casting a documentary, you search out the most compelling, charismatic, relevant people you can access. You pitch them your vision for the film, and then you put them in positions to tell the truth and be themselves. And then, the cameras start rolling, and you try not to get seduced by the very charisma that drew you to them in the first place. And that was the case with Ramon. So, when we finished the film, it was almost a relief to be able to tear that wall down. In the years after we wrapped the film, Ramon revealed himself to be every bit as authentic, endearing, and hilarious as the man you see on screen in the film. With Ramon, what you see is what you got, which made me feel good because, as a documentarian, all I ever aimed to do is put real life on the screen. We developed a friendship during Parker's college years. I'd see him around Los Angeles. He came to my wedding. I still remember the day that he called me up out of the blue to ask me if I had put a baby in my wife yet. He was always very clear that being a father was his life's greatest honor. And he never passed on a chance to put his foot in my ass around why I was waiting to start my own family. He was a great dad, and I know how much his kids love him. Which is why I was so devastated to learn the news of his recent passing, especially knowing firsthand what he means to that family. So today, I just want to say thank you, Ramon. One of the greatest things about being a filmmaker is I've had literally thousands of people come up to me to tell me what an impact Ramon made on them and their thinking through our movie. As a new father myself, I often think about the ways that Ramon showed up for and loved on his kids. He was the real deal, and I hope you learned something from watching him today. So, Godspeed, Mr. Cartwright. BTA, you are missed.